This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Gymwright growth specialist and seasoned box owner Tyler Sullivan for part 2 of a 3-part series of Ask Me Anything. Tyler's going to answer your questions from our community here live on the air. Now, before we get started, for all of you listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview and the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. If you'd like to watch the show live, we record every Friday in the network, which is our free private Facebook group for the motivated gym owners of the world. So be sure to join the community there to get in on the action in real time and get your own questions answered by our team and special guests. Now, back to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I am your host, Marcus Gursey, and this week we welcome to the show special guest, Gymwright growth specialist and box owner extraordinaire, Mr. Tyler Sullivan. Welcome to the show, Tyler. It's a pleasure to have you on with us again.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Marcus.
Awesome. Now, as I mentioned during the intro, today's show is part 2 of a special 3-part series of Ask Me Anything here on Gymwright Live, where you, our audience, get to submit your questions for our gym growth specialist to answer live on the show. We already have some questions we gathered from you earlier this week, but if you have your own questions that come up while you're watching live, feel free to post them to the comments below and we will try to get to as many of them as we can during the show. So this concept spawned when I was on a call with our gym growth specialist a few weeks ago, coaches Bradley, Missy, and Tyler, and there was a topic that kept making its way into our conversation, and that is the huge shift in how everything is done in the gym industry and how it's changed over the last few years. Put simply, the way we used to promote our gyms, get new members, engage with our members, and cultivate a happy and loyal tribe of people who love to train just doesn't cut it anymore. That's why for these 3 episodes of Gymwright Live, we are highlighting each one of our gym growth specialists who live in vastly different parts of the country, have different styles of gyms, have specific challenges that you'll be able to relate to, and have been able to survive and thrive before, during, and even after the shift. So be sure to check out last week's episode with Bradley Schneller and tune in next week to check out the grand finale of the series with Coach Missy's episode as well. She runs a hell of a gym. So, all right, Tyler,
Yes.
Let's start with a little bit of background on you so people can get to know you a bit. Outside of working with some of our most successful gyms all over the world, you also own and operate what I would consider one of the best run and most successful CrossFit gyms in the country, Badger CrossFit. And you guys are located in Wisconsin, which is probably as different as humanly possible from last week's interview with Bradley, who's based out of New Orleans. How long have you been in the gym business?
Specifically with my gym, we started in 2011, but I've been training athletes since about 2006, and I started that in college actually. And so I would say about 12 years in the business itself.
That's a long time. How did things start for you?
Well, I mean, I started kind of getting bored with my current routine, kind of the typical CrossFit story of I personally didn't like what I was doing, and I came across CrossFit and this methodology and this style of training, and it really brought an interest back into why and what I was trying to do, and that was, to have fun with it, but also to see amazing results. And I knew at that moment, that was about 06, like I said, 07 perhaps, and I knew that I wanted to share this with the world, and I knew it was going to be the way that I was going to create a platform for people to have success in their fitness. So I started it officially here in 2011 here in Milwaukee, and it's been a wild ride since, but we started with 0, and we're working our way up now, so it's upwards of 400 members now.
Awesome, man. So you guys started with no members, and there was, I'm taking then, not much of a business plan per se when you first kind of started, because I think you, like many of us, kind of started as a spur of the moment, like, I'm excited about this, I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to start, and we'll see what happens, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a classic of, I just love this thing so much that I knew I could do it really well. Mm-hmm. And then it was scramble and catch up on the business processes and the systems and any sort of policies or anything that you could think of in a business and actually make it run like a business after the fact.
Awesome.
Classic story for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you, like you said, you guys are now upwards of 450 members, right?
Yeah. So we fluctuate depending upon the types of programs we're offering, but we've been as high as 450, and we kind of fluctuate back and forth depending upon, like I said, like boot camps and other specialty courses.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to point out here before we go any further is that one thing that I like most about how you've built Badger, which is kind of goes against what a lot of people believe in our industry, is that you've grown to large scale at 450 members, yet you've been able to maintain a very authentic and pure sense of community that often gets lost for most boxes around that 200 member mark, simply because they're not able to keep up with growing the culture of the team and being able to continue to build and grow that as they scale up into that higher volume. So I think that's an important thing I want to point out for people who are checking this out, listening, and hearing your story. So first question for our Ask Me Anything from our community was, this is typically a tough time of year for many gyms because of back to school time. What have you been doing to keep things trending in a positive direction while most gym owners are scrambling to survive during this challenging season?
Well, that's a great question. I tend to find that it's the things that we've been doing the last 2 to 3 months that you're going to see now. So a lot of times people have problems at the back to school where the membership's down, or you're going to have some less engagement with the client, or there's just the attendance gets low, or life gets in the way. Classic stories. And it's something that we like, especially in my business here, is to get ahead of those sort of issues months in advance, right? And I like to always talk to my clients about the perceived value and what you're trying to do to create value to keep them engaged, right? But also to learn how to reverse engineer in marketing, those types of things to be able to offset any of the sort of dips of those classic member cycles. So I like to be able to focus back onto the events, the social, the perceived value of fitness, anything that we can do to kind of hedge those things, so to speak.
Right. It's long story short, you're proactively anticipating these times of year and engaging with these people and building that value before it gets tough, so that they don't axe you as the first thing on the list when life does get in the way. Awesome. So, how do you keep from losing members to other gyms who do things that are cheaper or similar? I know this is a question we get all the time. How do you differentiate yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a question that it's obviously a very big marketplace, and we're all trying to do great things with people. And the great thing is that everybody is so different, and we have different styles of training. We have different ways of engaging with people. We have different strengths and weaknesses. And but the core thing that we have always focused on, and it sounds pretty cliche, but it is really focusing on the community, right? It's creating and holding these events, offering workshops, educational opportunities, and creating camaraderie. I mean, the one thing that never goes out of style is showing care, right? Mm-hmm. Is really truly offering and giving people an understanding, sympathy, a listening ear at times. Like, we send flowers. My wife organizes meal trains for new parents that are, coming off of a new baby, so they don't have to think about meals for that next 3 to 4 weeks. We write handwritten cards. We take our coaches out to dinner individually. We go to coffee with members who are, struggling with issues, or and just sitting down with them and listening to them and being open and having a really, really good rapport with our community, because that's something that really does create relationships, and relationships are the glue. And when someone's always going to be cheaper than you. And I think it's something that's very important for us to establish that relationship, to really define just the type of people that, number one, they're working with, but number two, that we are worth more than just the commodity service, so to speak. I hate to call it a commodity, but sometimes it can be. And you overcome that with those sort of, those relationship builders, so to speak. Does that make sense?
100%. I think it's so easy for people to forget, from the times when they first started and they build, everyone who comes through their doors, everyone who gives them a chance, they pour into them, they build these meaningful relationships. And that ends up being that core group that even when you grow and you make mistakes and you stumble over yourself, they stick by you and they tolerate the imperfections, they tolerate the mistakes, because you have a meaningful relationship. And at some point, for some reason, most gym owners we all kind of start that way, they start to disconnect from that. And then those relationships become less and less meaningful, which means we start to have these attrition issues, and we no longer stand out. We no longer are unique, because at the end of the day, someone down the street can offer whatever they want. But if someone likes you and they trust you and they like your style and they feel like what you do connects with what they do and they want to be around you, you win. That's it. Right? You have successfully decommoditized yourself. And, just to kind of compliment on what you've done, you've managed to maintain that even at that larger scale, which to many is intimidating. And it is a balancing act, right? It's not always easy as you're growing through into these new thresholds of membership and staff management and, all the headaches we go through as we grow and we learn and we evolve. But if you can stay focused on maintaining that relationship focus with each and every person who engages, you're going to stand out. You're going to be unique. You're going to have better retention. You're going to have better referrals and all those things that we hope for in this business, right?
Absolutely. And the simplest thing I tell, a lot of gym owners and that are maybe looking at trying to keep a close-knit community and trying to be able to maintain that nice culture within and loyalty within their brand and their clients is really simple test is just, do you know every single member's first name? And if you can't do that, if you're starting to see members, that's my gauge at least. And I think it's a great gauge. But if I start seeing people inside my classes where I don't know their name, I don't know their history. I mean, I'm not the one always doing the intros, but I at least need to know their names and reach out. And things, but it's a good gauge for me to really see, am I still doing okay? Or are my coaches, do they know their names? So it's a good, I think, tip for those owners that are growing and want to have like their finger on the pulse of things.
It is such a simple exercise. I mean, not saying it's easy to memorize everybody's name, but it's not like some complex strategy or tactic. It's just, hey guys, let's make sure we can remember and use people's names. It goes such a long way when someone feels like, oh, I'm not sure if they remember me. And then the coach is like, oh, hey, Marcus, you mind grabbing me some of those 10s and bringing them over here? They're like, oh, wow, I'm seen, I'm recognized. And that goes such a long way, right?
Absolutely. It's just, I get countless texts and emails saying, really thanks for reaching out. Like when we do our check-ins, it's, we use their name. That's the most powerful, thing in the language or word in the English languages or whatever name, or language, excuse me, is their name. And just saying, I just really appreciate how I feel special in this big, large group, and it just stands out for sure.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Next question from our community is, how do you handle member retention challenges during the long winter months since you guys are in Milwaukee? This is something that's come up from people in that region where during the winter it gets crazy, it's cold, it becomes very inconvenient sometimes to go to the gym where people are showing up and they're wearing mittens and whatnot for 6 a.m. class. What do you guys do to manage retention during that time?
It's a lot more comfortable to sleep in on those cold days for sure.
For sure.
Being that we know that this is going to come up, especially in Milwaukee and just this climate, is that, it's going to be a struggle to keep people sort of motivated, I would say. I mean, we always tell, the motivation does have to come from within, but if we can make it a little bit easier for them, to be able to know this, or face that challenge, and they know that, okay, there's something that they can do to overcome, we're going to do that. So we try to keep engagement and create engagement, I should say, before the problem happens. So before winter strikes, we know that, hey, we're going to be having to do a lot more community builders, in-class builders. We will do a lot of icebreaker questions. We want to get them laughing because it's dark, it's cold. We want to be able to make them have a good time immediately in class. So we focus a little bit more on the fun factor, on workouts, also on some of those people that are really focused on creating developing their better fitness. So we're do a little bit more of a focused effort on on the fitness side of things. So we tell people, hey, we're going to be starting up a 6-week, for example, back squat cycle. We're going to focus on the legs these next 6 weeks. So we'll kind of give them something to say, hey, cool, like I got to keep showing up because this is one of my weaknesses. So we'll kind of we'll listen to what they say. We'll see where we're at. Some people love to do burpee challenges. So sometimes in December, we'll do like a 12 days of, Christmas style stuff. And sometimes it always relates to a burpee or a different workout. So there's stuff like that we do to try and capture their interests, before these problems were to arise, especially in the cold weather.
I love the idea of doing the kind of larger challenges, so rather than just focusing on the regular attendance, performance stuff that you had mentioned too.
Yep.
I love the idea of taking people's attention away from the regular routine and giving them something else to focus on that has a little bit of a longer range, so that it's not just another Wednesday or another Thursday of going to the gym. It's, we're on week 3. I'm excited to do this new thing or to focus on this thing, or, it keeps them engaged. The next thing you know, they're 6 weeks further along through this tougher season. They've got momentum. They've made progress. They feel like they've been being engaged on a different level than from the regular routine. Really, really smart.
Yeah, it's the fitness side. Obviously that's, some people just come, they want to have the social stuff. So we do a ton of things also socially in those cold months. Like we do sledding. Like we embrace the cold. So we go sledding. We organize ski trips. We do obviously Christmas parties. And football's huge around here, of course, right? Green Bay Packers are a big deal in Wisconsin. So, we do games together where people are just going house to house, or every week we go to a different member's house and we just, have a Sunday night, and, it's just really, and just watch the game and just have a good time with everybody. So it's important to be socially active as well.
Love it.
Yep.
All right. Next question. How do you help gyms professionally grow without losing that family-like close-knit culture? We touched on this already a little bit before, but how do you get other gyms to maybe address this and keep this from becoming a problem or reverse the problem?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like I talked a little bit about earlier in regards to, just creating a focus on the community, offering certain events, workshops, but really showing that you truly, truly care. I really would, when I discuss this with gym owners, it's creating systems within their, retention process, and being able to say we can inject ourselves into that. So, are we sending them a congratulatory card at the 30-day mark? Are we, perhaps offering them a, coffee gift card or something at the end of their 60 days, or, just creating some sort of retention process and injecting our care and our values and our mission within within that process. So that's something that I definitely look at, but I really want to focus too on building a loyalty through building like special moments, creating powerful moments where people are, when they're doing something successful in the gym, we recognize it. We show that they're coming consistently, or they made a PR, and just really just creating elite fitness and offering a tremendous valued service that talks the talk and walks the walk, So I think that as you start to grow, and maintaining that, creating systems and making sure that you recognize the people throughout the journey.
100%. And a lot of times people think systems just means the dry, boring, operational,
Absolutely.
Like here's how you organize the stock room, here's opening and closing procedures, here's how we do, staff meetings. And all of those are a part of that for sure. But I think the important thing is that you're also building systems around these initiatives. Do you have systems in place to manage what kinds of events you do at what time of year and how you promote and what you're doing for those relationship building activities for new people, building that perceived value, integrating people socially? These are all the things that actually make people stick, and making sure that they're showing up consistently, that they're actually getting results, that they're feeling seen, that they feel like they have somebody to come to. That's the difference, guys. And that's really where we want to start with our systems. People think sales and marketing systems are just funnels and lead magnets and, how do I get someone to say yes and overcome objections? That's the smallest part. The biggest part is that when someone gives you a shot and they say, okay, I've got a problem that you're going to now, hopefully you're going to help me solve, that you connect with them and integrate them and make sure that every single person that comes into your ecosystem gets that kind of experience and that personal touch from all the right team members, and that those moments are intentionally being captured and documented and shared and showcased in front of the community so that everybody gets that love. And if you can make that the system, then now you're going to be able to grow and scale, not to mention not have a lot of the problems that most people have as they do grow, right? Because they kind of take the attention off of that. And it's just, we got to market, we got to sell, we got to grow, basically just trying to outpace their retention issue, their attrition problem, right? Which only gets exponentially worse the more they shift their focus away from it. When really it's first, let's dial in the entire member experience, onboarding, integration, all the things we just talked about, and then let's pour gas on the fire so that we have a stickier community. The people who are coming in feel the love so that they're going to be more likely to not just stick around, but refer friends and family, buy your products, buy your additional programs, and all the things, right?
Absolutely. It's just getting and creating, like the key word there is professionally grow, right? We can grow, but can we professionally grow? And the things that you just iterated to were just perfect examples. And we don't want to become churn factories, because then we just have problems, and it becomes frustrating for not only just the coach and the owners, but the coaches, and being able to have someone that comes consistently, developing that relationship is huge. And the systems that back that up, that show those things, are going to just sort of help you guys and help offset those problems.
Love it. Tyler, what is your favorite thing to teach coaching clients about growing a better and more profitable box?
Oh, I love it. I love coaching clients through just really having them take a look at themselves and to ensure and have them understand their why. First off, that what they're doing and ensuring what they're doing is really what they want to do. Sometimes it has to be a realistic kind of conversation and understanding. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I need help with? And sort of just setting them on the path of what they're trying to do within their gym. Because we need to have some sort of focus. Otherwise, just because we're going to be throwing darts. And there's a lot of things that I like to do with owners and things to be able to create some focused efforts. So that's something I really enjoy, is really defining their why. But then I'd say operationally, I really love fixing the sales process. And I'm not just saying making the sale after the intro or whatever the person walks in. It's literally when I get an email or a phone call to having the sale, and but then 90 to 180 days after the fact, how are we onboarding these members? How are they being retained? How are we maintaining that relationship? So from first point of contact to sales conversion to retention is what I truly love to work with owners on, and keeping them engaged and the members socially accepted to be a great way to have gyms grow. And then the owners feel much more they're much happier as well when they have those things in place.
100%. Nothing feels as good, and this is my opinion, but I tend to get the same consensus from people who we teach this to. But nothing feels as good as when you are standing at the front line of your business and you feel like you have that control over how your brand is being received through all the people who inquire, and you're positioning yourself correctly, you're connecting with people on an authentic level, you're getting to know them, you're connecting the dots between their problem and your solution, and you're able to bring people in and, in most cases, actually permanently change their perspective and relationship with fitness and nutrition, which is not just going to help them lose the 25 pounds that they thought they were reaching out for and what they thought they were going to do this gym membership for, and then I'll be fit and I'm done. But what happens is most people have a really unhealthy perspective and relationship with fitness and body image and nutrition and what it takes. And we get to transform that. And that is so big. That is so powerful, because that makes them not just fitter, it makes them happier, healthier people who now live a longer, more fulfilling life, are better examples to their kids, better examples to their spouses. It affects their entire immediate circle. And that's what you get to do when you do that part successfully. So it's taking away from, or I think kind of taking ourselves out of that fear mindset around selling and it's this dirty thing and, oh, I hate doing intros and I don't want to, I'm just worried about getting a yes, rather than really trying to connect with people and bring them into your community and make that connection for them. And it's for me as well, it's my favorite thing to teach as well. So awesome, man.
Awesome.
We had a question pop up here in the comments from let me see here, from Quincy Brown. Quincy Brown asked, and this is kind of more towards the top of the show, when you said we were kind of telling about your journey. So how did you get people to come to your new gym when you first started? What were some of the things you did, I think, growth wise, or to get leads, to get interest? What did you do to grow?
Well, I mean, obviously I started at a time where CrossFit was not known that well, or this style of training was not too commonplace, but it was on the up and up in 2011 for sure. But even back then, though, I had to do a lot of the discussion of what is CrossFit, and I had to make that conversation happen. But I think more importantly, in the very beginning, I was very guerrilla with my marketing. And it was because there was just no, Facebook advertising just didn't exist. Google AdWords was just kind of new, and like the things that we can kind of take for granted today didn't really or truly exist, or I didn't have the budget to be able to do it. And it was very guerrilla style. We got down and dirty with the types of marketing. So we would have workouts at the local track, and we put these, crazy things on with the members that we did have at the time. We would bring barbells and kettlebells to the track when we weren't supposed to, just to be like, what the heck are these guys doing? So a lot of that stuff, we would go to local businesses in the area, hand out my business card, hand out flyers, and just introduce myself, offer their team, their employees, a free community workout on Saturdays. We would do that all the time. We would tag every person on Facebook that were to enter into our gym, just a lot of the kind of the grind, so to speak, in terms of like guerrilla marketing. And we just did it, and it was, I say we, it's me. But my wife helped me out quite a bit as well with some of the promotional items with, flyers and things like that we would hang up everywhere. And it was a lot of conversations and interactions.
Door knocking.
That's it.
Going out and just starting from scratch. Yeah, I remember that time too. That's one of my favorite times in the business is when you're just starting to get some traction and you're just scraping for every opportunity and you're just leaning into every relationship possible to build that momentum forward. Yep. Thank you for addressing that.
Yeah, and I would even if there's someone who's really just having struggles, I at one point I did even offer free personal training to members so that I could use them as marketing for my Facebook page, so I could prove the value that I was offering and what CrossFit could do to you. So I would do that as sort of I would absorb that cost to be able to say it's going to pay off later. So,
yeah, building the, it's not, I think, as much about discounting the services as it is I want to just build more value in when I'm starting something. And that way it's not about like, oh, you raised the prices, or I remember when it used to be super cheap. It's like, no, look, we've been charging the same membership rates the whole time, but for our first, X amount of people, we're going to include some personal training, or we're going to include some nutrition coaching and these value adds that are really going to accelerate their results. And, obviously if it's any sort of one-on-one additional interaction is going to accelerate your relationship building with these people and turn these people into raving fans and get that social proof that you can put out in front of everybody. Why not? Don't just phone it in, do your classes and say, I wonder why no one's come into the doors. It's like, man, you gotta lean into it.
You gotta lean into that. And then kind of like we were talking about earlier, and it's just that, expect that there's going to be those dips, or you just are having a hard time growing, and what are the things you're going to be able to do to offset that, plan for it. Beautiful.
All right. Final question here. If you could give one piece of advice to gym owners out there, what would it be?
Awesome. I would definitely, I do. And if I'm going to offer anything, it's going to be just be firm in the foundational principles, which are your mission, your vision, and your values, your why, right? And make decisions for your business, for your culture, for your family, on those values, on those missions, on the vision of what you're trying to do in your gym, not just like knee-jerk reactions to maybe what the competition is doing or what you see on Instagram or what your members are telling you. It's being true to who you really are. That's going to, because I mean, if we're going to be in this business, right, we might as well be happy doing it. And
exactly.
If we're not happy, I mean, and I learned from experience, I was at a point in my business where I didn't have the things in place or the people that I surrounded myself with, to be able to give me advice, but you live and you learn. But creating the atmosphere in which you have people that you can trust, who are loyal to you and who are hardworking, but just really being balanced and being happy, because the last thing you want to have is yourself working this hard for something that you're not enjoying. And sometimes I find that when we lose sight of those foundational principles, we start to become questioning why we're doing what we're doing.
Beautiful, man. Love it. All right. So for those of you watching, by the way, if you're interested in working with Tyler, make sure you register at gymwright.com for our Beta Foundations Program 2.0. He is one of our senior coaches here at Gymwright, and he, along with Bradley, Missy, and myself, are in the process of interviewing our next round of gym owners who want to take their business to the next level. And in case you are one of those gym owners who is already maybe even running a good gym, but you want to take that gym and make it great, Tyler's your guy. Tyler is the guy who works with some of our most successful gyms, and just my observation is you tend to take those people and crank out best months ever like it's going out of style. And I think that is a feat worth mentioning here as we kind of close out the show. So Tyler, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for coming on with us and sharing live and answering questions from our community. Where can people find more about you?
You can find me on Instagram, BCF Tyler, or you can go to our website, badgercrossfit.com, or Facebook. Just type in Tyler Sullivan. I should come up as the first person.
Awesome, man. Tyler, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners for joining us today. Again, if you are listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview along with the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Your support means the world to us. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can join the conversation every Friday here in the network at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks again for your support. Now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you again next week.